Can the Giants offense build off putting up 37 points in the Cowboys loss, or was it more of the same? Let's play a little Monday afternoon quarterbacking or wide receiver in this case with former Giants wide receiver and Super Bowl champ David Tyree. DT, what's going on, man? It was one of those ones where it's like, hands up, got to be more careful.
Man, hands up is right, man. But you know what? We got action. Hey,
Yeah.
you know what? All is not lost in Big Blue Land. There was fight, there was energy, there was enthusiasm. Obviously, we lost some plays in critical moments, penalties. But there's opportunity for the Big Blue to compete, and that's what we really needed to get in the game.
Yeah, and it all started with Russell Wilson's performance, man. I got to tip my hat to that guy because all week, bro, when he had his media availability on Wednesday, he was still talking all positive and was telling the media how he doesn't flinch, he doesn't listen to the noise, and everyone was kind of drowning Russell Wilson out, and they wrote him off, but he didn't write back, though. Thoughts on Russell Wilson and the offense's response to a lackadaisical week one?
Yeah, overwhelmingly impressive. I mean, who could have anticipated 450 plus yards from what we have labeled a declining Russell Wilson? I thought it was a superb. It's hard to use these kind of words, but how often do we see that in the Giants offense? We've still seen this dominant a deep ball threat. One of the best, well known throughout his career, is the best deep ball threat. And the Giants showed why they brought this guy in, because he could weather the storm of the outside noise and remain consistent. And that's what we're going to need for this football team to have a chance from being a 10-6 team or a 6-10 team.
Yeah, you saw guys like Theo Johnson get catches early. You saw Darius Slayton catch a deep ball. Wan'Dale Robinson, who was averaging, 7 yards a catch last year. Man, he's a dude that plays in the slot. You would think a guy that plays in the slot just going to catch passes like Wes Welker. He was deep balling guys, going over the top. And, of course, Malik Nabers got to show why he is one of the premier receivers in the league. He now leads the league in receiving yards and catches over 20-plus yards. If you're going to unretire somebody's number one number, you gotta get you some explosive plays in there, and Russell Wilson in that moonball is the dude that has unlocked that. So I got two catches for you, DT, from the game. It's time for Tyree's great catch moments. I want you to break this down for us. First one was Russ to Wan'Dale Robinson for a 32-yard touchdown on 4th and 4. The actual catch was pretty much routine, but it's a big play and a big moment of the game. Break it down for us.
100%, man. What you really see here, when I see Wan'Dale beginning to take this up the field, it reminds me of a streak shallow concept. We're looking at Theo Johnson going in motion. Obviously, no reaction there. That's reading your zone. But we have this double vertical concept right up the seam. And what's special about it is this ball placement, right? By the time you have this 3-by-1, you see this safety hasn't made much adjustment, and the best part of this is the timing, right? This is just good quality, conceptual, get an offensive coordinator a bump and a pay raise type of football here, where we could actually call, execute, and deliver on the dime. And that's exactly what Russell and Wan'Dale did. Big time play, big time throw, sliding in safe like Ricky Henderson, and the Giants are on the board. Kudos to Wan'Dale for breaking a little bit of the mold, because I was wondering, is there more to this guy other than just the scat back gadget guy, bubble screen guy? And he showed us that big time in a division game against the Cowboys.
And you talk about the execution there. So kudos to Mike Kafka for dialing it up, calling it. Obviously, football is chess with real players. But when we go back to it and we watch this, something that people need to understand, because there's Wan'Dale right there on the numbers. When we talk about when we run that seam route, DT, and we see single high, we have to stay up the numbers so we stay away from the safety in the middle third, because the middle of the field is closed, and it keeps us in between that safety and that corner, who's Trayvon Diggs, who's just lost in the sauce right there. So I give a shout out to wide receiver coach Mike Groh as well, and Wan'Dale, because it's the execution and the little things, especially on a 4th and 4, to deliver at that moment the biggest play of the game. Shout out to Wan'Dale Robinson. So I got a second one for you, DT, here.
Oh, there's more.
But wait, there's more. 33 seconds left in the game. Russ throws a
Ooh.
dime moonball to Malik Nabers for a 48-yard touchdown in double coverage. I thought that was game. Break this one down for us, DT.
I mean, this is just as big time as it gets if you really want to be honest. I mean, obviously the Giants didn't get the biggest stat in the game, which is the W. But when you talk about playing under pressure, needing a play, and this now no longer becomes about X and O's. This becomes about the Joes. That's what you got. You got a quarterback who believes innately in the quality of his number one wide receiver, and he throws this ball in the place where sheer athleticism and greatness has a chance to make the play. Gets a step on two defenders deep, and Malik Nabers is now just from week to week asserting dominance, asserting athletic dominance. Not this play is, I wouldn't call it completely routine because of the time frame, but when you talk about the quality of catch from touchdown 1 to touchdown 2, this is the more routine catch for the caliber of wide receiver that this young man is. And this is just phenomenal football. Like I said, the most important stat is the W. They don't get that, but they give you a lot. There's a lot of meat on the bone to begin to cultivate a meal for this New York Giant offense.
And it's funny, like, me and you were old school, and it's like you eat the chicken bone and you try and throw it away, but your grandparents like, nah, boy, there's still meat on that bone. So if you're a Giants player, especially the offense, you need to be looking at the hidden yardage, the plays that were left on the field, and be like, hey, there's still some chicken left on that bone, fellas. We need to eat until we get full.
100%, man. When you really look at where the Giants lose this game, it's the obvious, right? It's the penalties, it's the missed time, critical moments, drops in critical places. And these are things, again, when you start talking about early in the season, you don't want to be 0-2 in the National Football League. The stats are against you, but at the end of the day, when you're really talking about cultivating and coming out of the shadows of a little bit of a dismal disconnect for the last few years with the New York Giants, this is where they need to be moving towards. And coming into a home opener, I think they have a lot more juice and optimism. So yeah, there's definitely something to work with to kind of revitalize energy and enthusiasm, because no one even really gave them that much. When you talk about dominating the first quarter in red zone, right? 1 for 5 in the red zone, where the Dallas Cowboys were 3 out of 3. And that's really the tail of the tape, and the only reason why the Giants don't walk away out of Dallas with a big time W.
You talk about those penalty mans. It was the New York Football Giants versus the New York Football Giants and the Dallas Cowboys. You're never going to be able to beat a team like the Cowboys if you're continuously kicking yourself in the foot. Those penalties, man, 14 penalties for, I believe, either a buck 40 or 160 yards. Tom Coughlin used to always talk about those hidden yardage when it comes to penalties and how much points are left on the board or off the board because of penalties. DT, you're a leader in the locker room. What's that conversation got to be like? That uncomfortable conversation have to be like with not only the team, but James Hudson III about cleaning these penalties up. Why does this team keep beating themselves?
Hey, listen, I'm certainly a team guy. You never want to go directly for a guy's throat, but it's going to be very difficult for Hudson not to end up in the Hudson, right? When you just look at their quality of performance in the first quarter, there really was none. But what you did see is a strong tenacity, and that's the only thing that might be a redeemable quality for a veteran at this level. It's unacceptable, and so you have to address it as such. You gotta $$ shoot these guys in relation to how you lose a game is by critical errors, missed assignments, penalties. This is how you lose in the National Football League. And the Giants have proven through the last year, I believe there's something like 1-8 in touchdowns with one-score games. So this has not been a team that has proven that they can win under pressure. And you don't want to put that kind of pressure through poor performance. And that's all a discipline issue. This is where the Giants can't get into these slippery slopes when it comes to cultivating a team that is looking to revitalize a new sense of identity. And they got themselves in a tough spot. And the ditch was honestly just too big to dig itself out of. It started from the opening kickoff. And again, penalties, critical moments, they were not able to pull this thing through. And sadly, Russell Wilson catches the bug in overtime to put the nail in the coffin.
Me and you were big on accountability. We had the Michael Strahans, the Eli Mannings. It's one of those things where it's like a basketball player when they pick up the foul, you just put your hand up and be like, that was me right there. There's a lot of narratives online or social media where they're saying that, oh, it's Brian Dable's fault because of these penalties. When you look at some of the games, some of the roughing the passers, some of the PIs, the offsides, the false starts, I mean, there's a myriad of penalties. Is that more player or is that more coach?
I'm all on the player in relation to that. I do believe that the coach is responsible for firmly addressing, establishing voice, and standards of accountability and how he addresses his team. They removed James Hudson from the football game, right? What more can you do in relation to starting off? And he's a veteran guy who's played good football in this league. So, and do you want to do that? No, this is not like this is an incapable football player. So no, players play the game. Coaches prepare us and put us in position. And the Giants were in position to win this football game for a myriad of reasons, inclusive of coaching to a great veteran performance by Russell Wilson. Great team. It was great to see the Giants defense led by that rotation of defensive players. We saw Dexter Lawrence a little bit more active as opposed to week one, which was fantastic. I'm sure health is coming along. So this is a team that had every intent. They brought the energy. Their key players made tremendous plays, Brian Burns, and they came up short, and it was personal accountability. And I think they're going to have enough integrity to reach within their own souls and hold one another accountable.
When we talk about the defense, can you go into a little bit more detail for us on the thoughts of what you saw? Because a lot of people online, again, I keep referring to social media, but this is media. This is media now. These are the storylines that we have to talk about. A lot of people are upset with defensive coordinator Shane Bowen. Is it one of those things where is it more coaching has to get this Giants defense right, or is it comes down to the Jimmies and Joes like we talked about? And if that play is coming at you, you got to make that play there.
Yeah, in my personal opinion, I think that's going to be something to watch over the next 2 to 3 weeks, right? Because when you look at personnel for the New York Giants defense, they're a quality defense on paper. And how can you get some of these players in better position to create pressure and gain turnovers? In these two games, obviously we had a big play by Drew Phillips. Love him in the slot. Is there a blitz? And every defensive coordinator has a scheme and a philosophy. So without bucking trend, but how do you get these players? And this is what coaches like Bill Belichick was dynamic at. How do you, in light of the players that you have, how do you better position the entire roster to make a contribution and intensify the quality of these players to put them in the best position to make critical plays? And I think I'm going to give them another few weeks, but there's something to be desired from this football, and we're seeing pressure, but we're not able to see the quality of closing plays in a manner where this defensive unit is setting the tempo for the Giants.
All right, we got 0-2 New York Giants versus the 0-2 Kansas City Chiefs. Prime time Sunday night football. Both these teams are going to be fighting and scratching for a win. Steve Spagnuolo comes back to East Rutherford. What's your final take on the New York Football Giants heading into a must-win?
Yeah, I think you got to, and forgive me for the informal language, but you got to take the scalp off the cheap. I know I'm not going to my Indian community, but I'm talking about these Kansas City Chiefs. They have to, when you look at who Kansas City is now, they're as vulnerable as they have ever been. There's not a quality of support for Patrick Mahomes. Offensive line is relatively stable, but this is a great opportunity in prime time for the New York Football Giants to take the next step, take a look at the film today, fix these mistakes, and take the momentum from their leadership in Russell Wilson and sign, seal, and deliver a step. Very similar, and it doesn't have to be in this form of fashion, but we started that season abysmal 0-2 in the 2007 Super Bowl season, and our backs were against the wall. We get a little bit of love from Colonel Greg Gatson. And next thing you know, there's a 6-game ripoff. Why not the New York Football Giants? This has been a tough schedule for the team, but they certainly need to get this game. We're 2-0-2 teams that are desperate for a victory, and I would like to believe, in light of what I've seen from both teams, the Giants are actually my personal favorite.
You went throwback just now. Shout out to Colonel Gatson. Like, he was in the receiver room with us during those weeks with receiver coach Mike Sullivan, and there was no complaining. Like, I'm tired. Nah, Colonel Gatson was like, nah, you better get out there and you better put you better put that effort out there on tape. So you went throwback there, buddy.
Months away from Afghanistan with no legs, you got to figure out how you're gonna get your job done.
Absolutely.
And that's what the Giants. They need to do some real deep soul searching, but it's not all lost, but they need to put Patrick Mahomes on his back. If in MetLife Stadium, make a good stand for this New York Giant team. There's been a lot invested, and now it's time to get a return.
Monday afternoon receiving should be a new trademark. No more Monday morning quarterbacking. Hey, DT, appreciate you breaking down your great catches and what this Giants team needs to do to get on the right track. See you next Monday, bro.
100%. Let's get great done.